So, good afternoon. I'm not in charge of immediately waking you up after lunch, but let's go into the second session. And we'll talk a little bit about the real world that I guess that I live in. I'll start to introduce myself as the presentation comes up. So, I'm Mike James. I do have a few different functions, but I'm presenting here as president of the Manufacturing Operations Management Institute, and that's all about manufacturing execution systems. It's really the layer of information which lies between the ERP layer and the physical process layer of the manufacturing environment, so the real plants where things are processed. So I'm going to focus today obviously on food, but actually the MOM environment, which is embedded in a standard. There's a couple of standards, the ISA 95 standard from the US, but also a European, the ISO standard related to this. A lot of the information in tracking and tracing is picked up through this information layer. But what I'm really going to talk about today is a little bit about the fourth industrial revolution, and tell you that my two grand twins were born 2 weeks ago, healthily and well. So I thought I would show you all a picture of them today, just to cheer you up, because it was a wonderful moment. Thank you. Now, let's see if we can get on to the next slide. So the fourth industrial revolution, I'm sure a lot of you have been hearing about it. Let me just touch on it quickly to remind you. And we're talking here about an initiative that is started in Germany, and the report around Industry 4.0 was handed to Angela Merkel in April 2013, and it has very significant implications for our industry and what they're doing, because it's driving some significant change. We're still we're on the cusp of the third industrial revolution. This is the time that we've gone into digitalization in the plants, in the automation processes. You all know about PLCs and SCADA systems and all the good things that are going on to automate food production in a clean and efficient way, and also, in a safe way, and we collect all of our traceability information as far as possible through those systems. In my career, I've lived through this. It's been pretty fun. It's been very interesting, and I thought it was pretty complex. But the thing about the fourth industrial revolution, when we move into what we call cyber physical systems, and that's a key word that you need to hold in your mind when we talk about this, we're talking here about moving our manufacturing, our plant-based activities into the cyber world. So before we ever build a plant, we build it in a computer. We simulate the equipment, we simulate the process, we actually make the product in the computer before we ever do anything in the physical world. We check that the plant layout is good, we simulate that. If you think it's not happening, those of you who are not aware of it, it really is happening. We have very clear examples. Unilever, for instance, are building their new plants based around this philosophy of first complete design in a computer system, the cyber world. Well, only when we're happy that the product is going to be okay, that we have perfect simulation, will we actually transfer from the cyber world to the physical world. So that's one thing that's changing dramatically in the world that I live in. And of course that increases the degree of complexity enormously. And that's really one of the key attributes of Industry 4.0. This is the most important figure, the chart about Industry 4.0. In the middle of it, we have the smart factory. We'll talk a little bit about what is that as we go through this presentation. But it's very important to understand that the Internet of Things and the Internet of Services are crucial to the performance of those plants. We're no longer standalone. We're very much an integrated part, as you already know, of the supply chain management system. So the report, the Industry 4.0 report, talks about smart mobility, smart logistics, smart grids, smart products, smart buildings, all based around the Internet of Services. Remember this term because you're hearing a lot about Internet of Things. But the Internet of Things is actually just the infrastructure. Yeah, it's the way it's going to work. But the Internet of Services is really the crucial part of the German Industry 4.0 revolution. What do I mean by that? It's the business model upon which you're going to be basing your future. We're not talking, we're going to use those things to do something. What is that something? Before we even start to build our new Industry 4.0 world, we have to think of that business model that we're going to operate within. So I'll give you some examples of what we're talking about. How do we perceive this world, potentially, yeah? So a lot of this may be very visionary, but some of it, as we go through this, will become very real. An Internet of Service. We have a company in the Netherlands. I live in the Netherlands because my wife is Dutch, so I have to live there. And they've started up a new business, a catering business for hospitals. So the hospitals are now providing them with the data and information that they need for the diet for a specific patient. That patient's requirements are logged, but also we need to know where that patient is. So the location of the patient is also critically important. And location is something that comes back all the time in Industry 4.0. So the service that we're offering is custom-made food. Yeah? It's a diet for that particular patient, and that means that my plant, my smart factory, has to be capable of reacting to preparing the lunch, the dinner, the breakfast for that particular patient, and it has to be responding in an incredibly fast and dynamic environment to those changes that are taking place. The hospital is not consistent. There are different patients in there every day. They're moving. They're at different locations during the day. So this gentleman is building his company around the concept of the Internet of Services. Those are the types of models that we need to think about. I gave a presentation, or actually a workshop. It was a one-day workshop, and we were talking about a manufacturer that produces coffee cups. A very, very low-value product used at places like Starbucks and Costa Coffee. You start to think, well, how can I develop a business model around a coffee cup for that industry, for the coffee industry? And we start to think about, well, maybe the customer's going to come along in his car, he's going to have his mobile phone with him, we recognize that he's on his way, and therefore we're going to have that coffee ready before he even walks in the door. Those are the types of things that you have to think about in the Internet of Services. They're rather easier to think about in the discrete industries. You know, Rolls-Royce, for instance, is already selling engines on aircraft by powering them by the hour. You pay by the hour of use. They also collect all the data around that engine so they know when they need to do they can do predictive maintenance. They know when they need to maintain those engines. So they have that business model already operational. But think about, in your world, how you can use the Internet of Services. And remember, you know, that's the key point here. It's not about all the technology which is lying behind it. It's how you're going to use the technology and create a profitable business model around it. How do you apply it? Yeah. So as I'm trying to just talk this through, the Internet of Things or the Internet of Services. It's the Internet of Things. I got a food plant which is literally a couple of kilometers from my home, and I go there quite regularly to talk to the IT manager there. And we were having a bit of a joke because we can do predictive maintenance on pumps, yeah, just flow meters and things like this on the systems. And he was saying to me, Mike, you know, it's such a pain now. I used to just fix a pump and put it onto my system, and it'd be done. You know, my maintenance crew would be done in an hour or two. Now I get this pump, and the bloody thing's intelligent. You know, it can do so much. It can tell me all sorts of things. And now I have to program it. And now I have to plan for the implementation of that pump. Weeks in advance, I have to get guys to read the manuals. They have to understand it. They have to program the pump. And then they have to put it in. It takes me ages now just to put a pump in. So you have to also think, is it so smart? You know, is it actually that smart to have all these things on my system? Yeah? But again, what is necessary? What is necessary for your Internet of Services? That's the question you need to ask yourself. What do you need for your business model? And big data, yeah? We now have a report from ABB. ABB builds and maintains middle-size and large-size petrochemical plants. There's so much data coming out of a middle-sized petrochemical plant that it would blow the internet apart if we were to actually collect it all. Yeah, 1.5 billion pieces of, billion pieces of data every day. We're talking far more transactions in a single plant than on the Facebook on a daily basis. We can't handle it. We can't build pipelines, IT pipelines, networks big enough to make any sense to actually collect that data. So I'll also throw the question to you all is, are you using the data you already have? Because our experience is, no. There's lots of data there already. Think about using what you have already and use it intelligently. Think about what you have already. And we call this small data. You've got plenty of small data. Plenty of things that you can already be working on to improve your processes. And this lovely term, you know, the spreadsheet of things. How many of you are still transferring all of that data onto a spreadsheet? Yeah? Well, this is the part which is nuts. Because in the Industry 4.0 world, nobody's going to use a spreadsheet because you will program your systems to make the decisions. You won't have people making decisions. I'm not talking about very big decisions, but I'm talking about smaller decisions. What am I going to make next? Yeah? How am I going to make it? How am I going to reschedule if I get a very large order? What's my schedule going to look like if I'm a brewing company if the sun shines tomorrow? It can all be programmed into decision-making systems. We are currently today on the 5 levels of artificial intelligence. We are stuck on level 1. Yeah, we are not moving off level 1. We need to get away and we need to start moving into levels 2, 3, 4, and 5, where we start to sense the world, the systems sense the world, and they start to become self-learning and they start to make decisions. And all they have to do is replicate the way we people are currently making decisions. So will there be people in the new plants? Yeah, so I'm talking about plants, the smart manufacturing plants. Or will there be no people? Well, there will be no people. We're going to move into that environment. Heineken in the Netherlands, their largest bottling and brewing plant, there are no people anymore in the process. In the bottling area, in the brewing area, there were just no people there. When I started my career and I used to visit Heineken, it was full of people. Yeah. These types of processes are a little easier, yeah, to de-people, as it were, than some other types of processes. But it's happening all around you, and you have to recognize that it's there. And it means that you have to retrain, reskill all of the people. So Industry 4.0 says very clearly one of the major challenges is the people and their skill sets. And what do we see? The company I just described doing the meals for the hospitals. A lot of very young entrepreneurs. Yeah? These are the 20-year-olds, the 25-year-olds. They're out there and they're doing it because they don't see the barriers. They don't see the not can-do stuff. They do it. They're out there doing it. We now have 200 creative groups in Amsterdam working on ideas about how to apply Industry 4.0. And they're not just talking about it, they're actually doing it. They're replacing PLCs with the Raspberry Pi. Yeah? We're now looking at systems, automation systems that used to cost 100,000. They can now deploy and develop for 2,000, 2% of the previous cost. Are you going to risk running your plant on a Raspberry Pi? Probably not yet. But as trust and confidence builds, we may see some of these changes coming in. A bit longer term, but these characters are out there making changes. Will it be a high investment or a low investment? It's going to require shitloads of money. There is an enormous amount of money required to do it. We know that it's a very expensive game, and this is why the EU has a lot of funding at the moment providing the UK stays in the EU, of course. But that's another talk. The EU programme, Factory of the Future, the Horizon 2020 programme, there's a lot of money out there which is available to all of us to use for some of our development work, research work to get into this area. Will it be fast or will it be slow? Well, it's going to go at different tempos depending on your industry, where you are at the moment, you know, how visionary you are. But we're definitely seeing some of the early adopters moving extremely quickly. And the industry has never changed as fast before in my lifetime. It's really, the tempo is changing. Somebody said earlier, change is the new constant, and clearly that is happening. Will it be strategic or is it tactical? Well, clearly you have to have a vision. My advice is go back, talk to your colleagues, create brainstorming teams, think about how the future could look, think about the business models that you want to put together. It's not just enough to talk with the IT people, not just enough to talk to the manufacturing people. You have to have the finance people there, the research people there, the development people. You need to have teams within your business that are looking at this future. And I don't care how big you are. Yeah? You can be a giant multinational, but you can also be a small local manufacturer. Think about what's going to be coming at you. And of course, you know, the strategic or the tactical, there are lots of things that you can do tactically. There are a lot of steps that you can take towards Industry 4.0. You can take a step-by-step approach. And by taking a step-by-step approach, you also start to learn. Yeah, you start to understand what these new technologies are about. You know, how many of you have got robots in your plants? One or two, yeah? Well, you know, this is what's coming in very fast at the moment into the agricultural environment and into our industry. These are not the large robots that you're used to seeing in the car plants, the big, heavy robots that do, that can move a car or can do welding. These types of robots are what we call collaborative robots. They're small, they're not very powerful, and it means that they can work with people in the same environment because they won't hurt you if they go crazy. Yeah? They can't pick up, for instance, more than 10 kilograms. So we're seeing a lot of robots coming into the food industry, and these are small pick-and-place type equipment. Yeah. So yeah, where are the competitors going to get us? Well, obviously in the food industry, you guys are always working on cost. You know, you're trying to push your costs down. But where you really got to be working on is not that. It's where is your added value to the consumer? How can you get a higher price? So what does Industry 4.0 says, black and white? It says we want to get more money into this industry. What it says is the opposite. It says by customization, we want to be able to increase our prices so that we have more to play with. So less emphasis on reducing costs. Smart manufacturing is not about reducing costs. It's about improving your complete business model so that you can earn more money. Because you're going to be much more focused on giving the consumer what they want on a much more individual basis, as we just heard. Yeah? There's going to be increasing fragmentation of the market, where we see that you're trying to offer to particular groups a lot more. We're also going to see the comeback of urban manufacturing. We're expecting to see manufacturing come back into the urban environment. Smaller scale, repeatable. And you all say, nah, that's not going to happen. That's mad. But what's just happened with all the microbreweries? They're all back in the cities. We're brewing beer back in the cities. And the happy people are the people who are supplying the brewing equipment, because they're selling tons of that stuff into these microbreweries, and we're loving it, aren't we? And we're paying more money for that product because we enjoy going out, drinking a local beer, inviting our friends to taste it, going around the corner and finding another one. My son just had 6 months in London, you know, and he became my guide to the London microbreweries. It's fantastic. You know, they're under the railway arches, they're brewing beer, and you can go there and taste it. Urban manufacturing is back, all part of Industry 4.0. I don't have enough time to tell you more and more and more. I'll just tell you the final story on the other side of the supply chain. Something you're probably more familiar with are the farmers and the production of food. We talk about, our company has delivered systems to Igloo for the harvesting of peas. The farmer gets a message, he gets a slot that he has to work to time, location, very precise in the harvesting of the peas and bringing them back into the plant for the processing. It's all information. It's all about precision of data, which is going across. It's all about having one of these in his pocket, because that's all he needs. We know where he is, and we can send him the information that we need to send him about how much he has to harvest, when he has to bring it in, and we get the perfect pea, right? And that's also part of this new world. Thank you very much indeed. I really enjoyed the presentation.